Hello everyone, welcome to my nature diaries. Today I'm going to be sharing some tips on painting or how to highlight white flowers in your nature journal or nature diary, and I'm going to be using this new spread to do that. First of all, I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to my sister who sent me this beautiful journal holder in the shape of a bumblebee or some kind of bee, and I just wanted to show it. This is what it does. I'm not going to be able to use it today because of my particular spread, but thank you so much, Beth. I really appreciate it. So to get started on our first tip, I'm going to be using masking fluid with an old brush, and I'm going to be using it to mask off the delicate white flowers of the Solomon's plume. And this is a great tip to help you be able to paint all around it without being worried about messing up the details. So we'll let that dry and go ahead. My palettes are Terrain and Windsor Newton Cotman colors, and I'm going to lay down from that Terrain palette. I'm going to be using a light green, just a subtle green, to go ahead and work around those white flowers, the larger ones, and put in a background. And I've decided to go ahead and paint a little forest kind of scene as a backdrop for these because that's exactly where I found them. And putting in these kind of backgrounds or scenes can help, again, just help you to know like where do you find these flowers in a meadow, in a forest, and it's kind of a fun way to show them off and showcase them as well. You can see I'm adding these little shapes with a darker green watercolor, and I'll be using browns and just different shades to kind of create like debris in the background, like leaf clutter and such. This paper, again, has cellulose in it. It's not like the best paper, so if it looks a little rough, I will clean it up at the end. That's just kind of how I work on my art pieces. But I just wanted to let you know that's what I'm doing here. So I'll be continuing to add layers upon layers. With my Princeton snap brush, size 12, I'm going to be going over these leaves with a darker green. And this is to showcase those white flowers that will appear once I take off that masking fluid. And this is my second tip, is to make sure you paint your white flowers against a darker background. And you can see the example to the right of this, even the white flowers are really standing out against that dark background, and it's very easy to do. Well, it wasn't so easy on the right hand side because those leaves were really hard to paint around, but if you just painted around the flowers, it's a great tip to be able to showcase that. And you can see as I'm rubbing off this masking fluid again how the white flowers really show up much better. If you wanted to make this painting faster, I think what I would have done next time would be to use that masking fluid even on the leaves and then pull it away and then go ahead and come back in with these greens, just because it would have been, feels like I could have layered a little bit easier on the in the background. But you know, whichever way works for you, especially if you don't have it. I did it kind of the hard way, but it works out, of course, in the end. I'm using this Uniball white gel pen to mark a white line on the leaves and stem of this particular plant, as that is a distinguishing mark for it, and I want to make sure I include it in my illustration for these Stars of Bethlehem, so I know when I go to look for them again to see if that plant has it. I'm working on my May apple plant over here with one single beautiful white flower, and I'm going to just paint the leaf for it. And it's really kind of, I was looking underneath the plant to be able to see the flower, so the sun was coming through and I wanted to show that with the lighter green color. And then I'm going in with that dark veining to just show the contrast for that as well. The nice thing about a larger spread like this is you can work on one flower at one side and then let that dry and then work on the other side, which I will be doing, and tweaking even more things on the right as it dries, just to be able to see what needs to be done. And I really want to make sure those white flowers are, popping and you can see them super well. My tip number 3 is for flowers that are a bit thicker. The petals are waxy, they're described that way, and sometimes they have a little bit of a sheen or a glitter effect to them, and that's what I'm going to be doing for this particular flower for the May apple, is using my Kuretake Starry Color palette, and I'm using that silver, and this is optional. And the nice thing is it's so subtle, you can really only tell when you move the book around and you're looking at it. So that's my other tip, is to use metallics or something like that to represent a white flower. Using an ink pen, or in this case I'm using a dip pen, to define all the features of a really small flower is a great way as well to be able to represent white flowers in your nature journal or nature diary. And it's just a simple way of showing them off. And I'm actually doing it here as well. I'm adding more details and line work. I already did put some grays and like greeny grays to show shadows in the flowers, the white flowers. It's a little hard to see with the video, but I'm just going over now with the ink and highlighting those even more. I feel like many times like adding these little details at the end of a painting just is so satisfying, and it's just like the way to make something really come together is by adding those little hash marks and lines and defining things a little bit more. And it's also a great time to step back from your work and to be able to see what needs to be done. Case in point, after starting to journal a little bit, I looked and thought, you know, I need some more dark green behind these white flowers because they're really not showing up as well as I'd like them to. So that's what I did. I just went back in and loosely went around them. It wasn't super hard to do, and I feel like it did help them show up a little bit more in the journal. It might feel weird copying information from your field guide or online and putting it in your own nature journal, because you're thinking, why would I do that? Because that's not really nature journaling. Well, I look at it this way: when we copy over information, just like how we do in our schoolwork, it's a great way to remember something, because otherwise you're trying to memorize things through study or whatever. But this is a great way to remember what you are learning about. If you are still watching and you haven't subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you follow along. Also, feel free to like, comment, and share this if you think it could encourage someone. And I hope you, again, are inspired to make art. Follow me for more content on nature journaling and nature diaries and what that's all about, and making art, because it's fun to be able to connect with other people that love to do the same thing. Remember, you are amazing and creative. We'll see you next time. Bye.